Okay, Shalom Aleichem, welcome back everyone. Baruch Hashem, back-to-back bar mitzvahs we had last night. Yehuda Chaimov's bar mitzvah was an amazing bar mitzvah at the White Shul here in Far Rockaway. This morning my nephew Ephraim Chaimov had a bar mitzvah this morning in Borough Park. So from one bar mitzvah to the next, maybe we're going to see many more.
Amen.
Everyone should see Simachot.
Amen.
Parashat Vayigash, a very emotional parsha, as Rabbi Tzion was just teaching from the Midrash how all that was going on of Yosef and Yehuda and the showdown that was happening. And after Yosef HaTzadik sees how much Yehuda is defending Binyamin and how much he's talking about his father, Yosef HaTzadik sees what's happening, and the pasuk says, "V'lo yachol Yosef lit'apek lechol nitzavim alav, vayikra hotziu kol ish me'alai, v'lo amad ish ito behit vada Yosef elechav." When Yosef was about to reveal himself, to reveal himself to his brothers and say who he is, he sent everyone out of the room. He sent everyone out of the room. The Midrash says on this, by the way, Midrash Rabbah says, Yosef did not act wisely. Yosef was not smart. Why? Very simple. Who are these brothers that are standing in front of him? These are the same brothers that many years ago sold him.
About to kill him.
Who wanted to kill him. So much so, they said Yosef was a Rasha. Remember, they put him in Bedin. They said he was a road day if he wanted to. And they know that Yosef, they said, Beruach HaKodesh, says Rav Yonatan Eibshetz, they saw that Yeravam ben Nevat comes from Yosef. And now Rav Yonatan Eibshetz says, and now they see this guy who's dressed like a guy, like an Egyptian, married to who? Asnat, they don't know who she really is, but she's the Kohen-owned daughter. She's the priest of Mitzrayim's daughter. And Yosef is going to say, I am Yosef. They're going to say, we're going to kill you even more. You didn't change. You got worse. So, ask Rav Yonatan Eibshetz. Says the Midrash, Yosef is not wise. So the question is, why did Yosef send out all his soldiers, all his bodyguards? And so the famous answer is that what? Yosef did not want to embarrass his brothers. Because even according to the lowest standards of Mitzrayim and to the lowest standards of the Misrim, selling your brother and trying to kill your brother is considered evil. This is like a universal evil that almost everyone on the planet Earth can understand. And so Yosef did not want to embarrass the Shiftei Kah by saying that I'm Yosef who you wanted to sell, you wanted to kill. So Yosef HaTzadik sent them out. But what we learn from here, the Gemara Masechet Sotah Daf Yud Amud Bet tells us, it's preferable for a person to throw himself into a fiery furnace rather than to embarrass his fellow man publicly. Yosef HaTzadik was ready to be killed, but not to embarrass his brothers. This is what Yonatan Eibshetz says. This is what based on Midrashim we understand. The Gemara Masechet Sotah says. There's a very interesting story I saw over here with the great tzaddik of Yerushalayim, Rav Aryeh Levin. Zechat Tzadik L'Bracha. One day, there are debt collectors knocking on Rav Aryeh Levin's door.
Yosef HaTzadik learned it from their Kelim a few years ago. Just said what happened to his brother Yehuda. That she wanted to
exactly. They had a role model.
She was not there.
He wasn't there when it happened. He had Ruach HaKodesh. Okay, but listen to the story of Aryeh Levin. One day he's at home, all of a sudden he gets knocking on the door. He opens the door. It's some court officers from the loan courts. They call him into the courts and they say, we have here a loan the person who took out the loan can't pay it back, and on the loan, signed as a guarantor, is Rav Aryeh Levin's name. Now, anyone knew Rav Aryeh Levin, the guy didn't have any money to his name. The signature on the paper was clearly a forgery that anyone can tell. But the judge had to ask him to follow protocol. And so he asked Rav Aryeh Levin, is this your signature? What did Rav Aryeh Levin say? He said yes. They say you have to pay it back. He can't pay, you have to pay. He says, you're right, but I don't have money right now. So they made a payment plan for him.
Couldn't say it was forged?
It was a forged signature.
You couldn't say it was forged?
He didn't want to embarrass another fellow. He said, I'd rather get thrown into a fiery furnace and pay the money than embarrass someone else. And for years, every month, he would pay 28 lira to this lender. All because Rav Aryeh Levin refused to embarrass a man who had forged his signature. Says the Peninim al Torah, does one really have to go to such an extent? And he ends off on saying, apparently the answer is yes. Apparently the answer is yes. We really have to go out of our way not to embarrass people. Some people are very good at getting people in sticky situations and trying to embarrass them. And other people are very good at trying not to embarrass people. In fact, over here, he brings a story from Mr. Avi Shulman from the Torah Masorah. He said such a story. Listen to this. He was once asked, who was the educator, the teacher that had the most influence on him? And he said, I'll tell you who it was. It was a 5th grade Rebbe. He says the class was acting very rowdy. And so the Rebbe came up with a way to deal with the class. And basically, if you made noises in the class, you made trouble in the class, your name went on the board. If your name went on the board, you got extra homework, or you got an extra punishment, or something like that. And if your name didn't go on the board, you got a reward. If your name could get erased if you behaved, you had a system. He said, one day, the principal, the Menahel, walks into the class. And as the Menahel walks into the class, the Rebbe goes with his jacket that's on him, and he's on the blackboard. And as the Menahel is walking around the class asking questions, the Rebbe is moving on the blackboard like this, and like this with the back of his jacket. Until eventually he erases all the names from the board. When the Menahel left, the children said, Rebbe, you got your whole jacket dirty. He said, I'd rather get my jacket dirty than the Menahel ask me why your names are on the board. Not to embarrass somebody. Last week I read a story, an amazing story from a friend, Shlito. Rabbi Fran Shlito says, it's a true story. There was a Gaish editor of one of these Detroit newspapers. He was once invited to speak. And he said, I want to tell you a story about my mother. He says, when my mother came from Ireland, she got a job. It's very hard to get a job, but she got a job with an Orthodox Jewish family as a live-in nanny, live-in maid. And he says what happened was the first year she was working for them. She was there for a few months. And it came the holiday season. And the family, the Jewish family, had to go away for a week there, Shabbos, whatever. It was a wedding somewhere, they had to leave. And it was around this time of year, December 25th, coming up. And this live-in maid was at the house. And she says, I know this family's Jewish, but it's the holiday season. How can they not have the Xmas tree in the house? Everyone has to have one. So she said, I know my hosts are such nice people. I'm going to do a favor for them. So she went and she bought an Xmas tree. And she goes and she puts it in front of the house, opens the curtains, and puts all the lights on it. And this is an Orthodox community. The guy lives a block away from the shul. And everybody who walks to shul sees his house. It's Friday night. He's not home. He's away somewhere. And everybody's walking past his house. The curtains are open. The Xmas tree with ornaments and lights are on it. Everyone's thinking, what's going on? This man makes it back. Comes back the next week. He walks inside. People are giving him weird looks. Comes to his house. He sees the curtains open. He sees the tree there. And he opens the door and the live-in nanny is there. And she says to the family, she says, I hope you liked it. I went out on my way to get it. And what does this man say? How would you react?
Thank you very much.
How would everyone react? You're saying good, but how would you really react? And this man comes, he looks at the tree and he tells to the lady, he says, this looks like a very nice tree. And it looks like it has very nice ornaments. And I want to thank you so much for this. In fact, we're going to give you a $50 bonus for the holiday season.
Take it home.
But I'm going to need you to remove this now. Orthodox Jews don't put up Xmas trees in their house. A lot of other people would have come in, would have made a whole scene, would have screamed and yelled, would have embarrassed the person. But not this man. And this editor of the Detroit newspaper says ever since then we became very staunch supporters of Jewish causes, of Israel and stuff like that. I'll tell you, recently I was in the hospital as a patient, and I had someone taking care of me, and it was a PCT, one of the patient care technicians, and she said to me, everything that me and my family has is because of the Jews. I said, what do you mean? She said, I came here, forgot which country in the Caribbean she came from, and she said, we came here, we had nothing, no one would give me a job. I didn't speak English, she spoke Creole, so probably from Haiti. And she said, I only spoke Creole, and no one gave me a job, no one wanted to hire me. She said, there's one Jewish family in Borough Park that hired me. And when they hired me, they didn't just hire me. They helped me send my kids to school. Today, my son is a big doctor. Today, my daughter is running a hospital here and there. And they're all because, and she says, you should know, anything you need today, I got for you. I'm a big supporter of old Jews and stuff like that. It goes a big and long way when we do the right thing and we don't embarrass someone. And that was Yosef HaTzadik. I'll send everybody out not to embarrass my brothers in front of the Mitzrayim, even though it was dangerous. That was Rabbi Levin, and that was our first lesson. Let's move on to a second lesson from this week's Parsha. This is a famous lesson. This is made famous by the Bet HaLevi. The Bet HaLevi asks a question. The Parsha says, Vayomer Yosef el Elchav, and Yosef said to his brothers, Ani Yosef, ha'od avi chai, is my father still alive? And the brothers couldn't answer, right? V'lo yachlu echav la'anot oto, ki nivha'alu mipanav. They were confused before him. Says the Midrash Rabbah, Abba Kohen Bardella says, woe to us on the day of judgment. Woe is us unto the day of reproof. If the brothers couldn't answer the second to youngest son, what are we going to answer when the day of rebuke comes to us from HaKadosh Baruch Hu? So Mefarshim ask, what was the day of rebuke? What did Yosef, what tochecha? What musar did Yosef give to them? Yosef just said, V'yomer Yosef elchab, Ani Yosef. I'm Yosef. That's what he said. Where was the tochecha? Where was the rebuke? So said the Bet HaLevi. Says the Bet HaLevi, Zecher Tzadik Levarcham, he says, those words, Ani Yosef, Ha'od Avi Chai, that is the rebuke. What is it? What's your whole line of reasoning, Yehuda? What was Yehuda telling Yosef, I have to take Binyamin back? Because, B'nafsho, Kishura B'nafsho, Yaakov Avinu's soul is tied up with Binyamin. If I don't bring Binyamin back, my father, I have to. And Yosef says, your whole line of reasoning is because, what's this going to do to your father? But Ani Yosef. I am Yosef. Ha'od Avichai, is my father still alive? Did you think about what was going to happen to my father when I don't come back? You're being hypocritical. You're saying you're worried about your father, but you weren't worried about your father when it was with me. Says the Bet HaLevi, this is the tochecha that everyone's going to get when they come up to Shemayim. They're going to say, you said you had no money. You didn't have enough money for tzedakah. You didn't have enough money for lulav. You didn't have enough money for etrog. You didn't have enough money for yeshiva tuition. You didn't have enough money for Shabbat oneh. You didn't have Shabbat. And then they're going to say, when you wanted to take the vacation, all of a sudden, money not an issue. When you wanted the newest car, when you wanted the nice fancy Italian marble, that you had money for. When you wanted to splurge money on a good lunch that today can cost you $50 for one person, all of a sudden for that you had money. That's the tochecha. Right there is going to be the rebuke. A person says, I don't have time to learn. And then they're going to show him how he had so much time wasting for other things. Person's going to say, I'm tired. But then when he's home, all of a sudden, he's not sleeping. The minute he comes to shul, whoosh, out. So Yaakov Galinsky says this, all right, the whole day a person can talk, a person can do everything. When it comes to work, then me told you, 1 second, you say you're tired, only when you're learning you're falling asleep. What about everything else? There are some people who say, yeah, Torah is old, doesn't make any sense. But these are the same people that when it comes to the 13th number, they get scared about. No 13. No 13th floor. No 13 this. Black cat is scary. Tell them to keep mitzvot, put on tefillin. Tefillin, what's this old thing? Shabbat? Who's this for? Says Rav Pam, Rav Chaim Moshe Grodensky of Vilna once went to a rich man's house. They were trying to get money for a mikvah. And this rich man was already far away from Judaism. And he says, come on, guys, mikvah. In the olden days, they didn't have indoor plumbing, they didn't have showers. That was the way they kept sanitary. Today, Baruch Hashem, we have all these things. We don't need mikvah. Chaim is trying to explain to him why is it important, the spiritual ramifications of it. And while they were talking, he gave everybody a cigarette. In those days, cigarettes weren't known to be problematic. And he takes out a match. He lights Reb Chaim Oizer's cigarette. The Rav who traveled with Reb Chaim Oizer, he lights his cigarette, puts out the match, puts on another match and lights his cigarette. So Reb Chaim Oizer asks this rich man, he says to him, what was that about? Why did you not light all three with the same match? He says, Rebbe, what you don't know, it's not mazeldik to light 3 cigarettes with 1 match. It's not a good mazel. So Reb Chaim Oizer says to him, I can't understand you. Mikvah, you don't understand. But lighting 3 cigarettes with a match, this you understand. Says Rav Pam, this is what the Bet HaLevi is saying. People are full of contradictions, and that is the Tochacha itself. When they say, I can't, it's not because they can't, it's because they don't want to. When they say they don't have, they have. This is the Tochacha. Listen to this, Rav Yaakov Galinsky, in the Vayigash, says a very amazing story. He says there was a couple of drunkards, and they never learned Torah, they didn't do anything. And they were getting on in age, and they said to themselves, what are we going to do when we get up to Shemayim? They're going to ask us questions. So they made a pact. They said the first one who dies is going to come back to tell them what's going on there, so they can prepare themselves. So one of them passed away, and a few days later, he comes back to the group, and he tells them, listen, guys will be okay, just don't drink any whiskey. They said, what do you mean? What's wrong with drinking? He says, drink everything. Just don't drink whiskey. Whiskey got me in trouble. They said, why did it get you in trouble? He says, I'll tell you, when I came up there, they asked me why I didn't learn Torah. So I said, why should I learn Torah? They said, because Torah, a person has to plan his life. A person has to work on his life. What's going to be, what's going to how. And I answered to Shemayim, I said to them, I'm the guy who lived in the moment. Right now, I can't think about the future. So they said, oh really? You never thought about the future? What did you do all day? He said, I used to drink with my friends. They said, what did you drink? They said, you drank wine? He said, of course I drank wine. Red, white, old, new, dry, this, that. Very good. You drank liquor? Sure. You drank arak? Yes. They said, what about whiskey? He said, of course I drink whiskey. I said, what's so special? What's so good about whiskey? Whiskey's so bitter. He says, listen, you guys don't understand. He tells the angels in Shema, you don't understand. Whiskey's bitter at first, but then it makes your whole body feel good, warm, kaif afterwards. So they said, hold on. So you did think about the future. You drank bitter whiskey because you know later on it's going to feel good. So you see, you thought about the future. So you didn't learn Torah, and now you're going to go to Gehenna. That's why I'm telling you, drink everything, just don't drink whiskey. Right. Obviously, that wasn't the shot what they were trying to say, but it's being hypocritical, that's the problem. Right, the famous story that Yisrael Salanter once went to an inn. He gets there, they don't know who he is. There's no Gedolim cards, right? There's no pictures on Wikipedia or whatever. So he gets there, and all of a sudden the hotel innkeeper comes running to him and says, listen, you look like a Talmud Chacham. Are you also a Shoichet? So he says, of course I'm a Shoichet. He says, good, because my Shoichet's coming tomorrow, and I'm having guests now. I need to have more chicken. Can you please shech my chicken? So Yisrael Salanta says, okay, give me some time. A few minutes later, Rabbi Yisrael Salanta comes up to the innkeeper and says to him, listen, I'm from out of town. I only have 5 rubles left. I need another 10 to get home. Can you please lend me 10 rubles? And I'm going to mail them back to you as soon as I get home. So the man says to Rabbi Yisrael Salanta, he says, listen, there's some not good people around. They borrow money, they don't pay back. I'm sure you would pay back. What can I tell you? The good get ruined with the bad. I can't give it to you. So Rabbi Yisrael Salanta says, hold on. 2 minutes ago, you were trusting me to do shchita. But to lend me 10 rubles, you're not ready. This is the hypocrisy that people have. When it's something good for me, it's good. When something not good, then I'm not. We have to be on equal fronts. I want to move on to our final lesson on this week's Parsha, which I think is another. You really have to be thinking when we're reading and learning the Parsha. We have in this week's Parsha that Yosef HaTzadik sends his brothers back to bring back the family. Paro sends along the wagons, right? To travel back, the car service. Yaakov Avinu sees the wagons, and what do we say Yaakov sees when he sees the wagons? Instead of seeing the wagon, what does he see? He sees the eglah, which is the eglah arufa. What's the eglah arufa? It's the halacha that you're supposed to send an escort with someone when they leave town. Because if you would find someone dead outside of a town, you would have to measure which town was closest, and you have to bring the special calf that you would decapitate as a takana, as a fix for the person who died. So that was the halachot that they were learning at the end before Yosef left Yaakov. And Yaakov sees wagons, and he sees, agalot is egla arufa. So says all Mefarshim ask this question. It's not egla, it's not a calf. It's agalot, it's wagons. He's looking at wagons. How does Yaakov see egla arufa? So Rav Druk says, in his Darish Mordechai, he says, fascinating. He says, I don't have an answer. I don't know. I don't know how Yaakov sees wagons, and instead of seeing wagons, sees egla arufa. I don't know how he does that. Maybe. But he says, we have to realize something. That when Gedolim look at something, they're not looking like the way we look. They're looking with eyes of Gedolim. They see something more. He says, Lamashal, says Rav Druk. He says, once I was driving with Bachim from the yeshiva, and we came to the Mediterranean Sea. And he says, one Bacher gets up and says to Rav Druk, are we supposed to say the bracha on the Mediterranean Sea? Can we stop the car? I'm going to get my hat and jacket on. I want to make the bracha with kavana. He says, at the same exact moment, there was another boy in the car. Says, Rebbe, can we stop? I want to take a swim in the sea. Right? 2 people see the exact same thing. One person sees the Kiddushah, what he can do. The other person sees the swim that he can take. You pay attention to Shas. This is Rabbi Akiva. Everybody's crying. Rabbi Akiva's laughing. Rabbi Akiva looks at the stone that has a water indent, and he learns he could be Choseh b'Tshuvah. He can go and learn. Right? Everyone else saw it and didn't do nothing. Gedolim are able to look at things and see more than that's there. Says the Hafetz Chaim. Hafetz Chaim says an amazing idea. He says, nothing just happens. People who have full belief in Hashem realize there's a cause and an effect. There's a holistic picture. Everything happens for a reason. And so every step of your journey happens for a reason. You have to be an Adam Gadol to realize that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is navigating your life. Hashem puts your feet where you're supposed to go. So if you realize that, then you realize everything is in its right place. And I saw from Rabbi Fran a connection to this. He says with Yosef HaTzadik, he brings it from the Dan Zekinim Mebale Tosfot. He says what? What was the last halacha that Yaakov Avinu was learning with Yosef? The halacha of levaya, of walking with someone when they're leaving. The halachot of egla arufah, if someone was found dead. He says so much so that when the pasuk says, Vayashlichehu, when he sent Yosef, what does that mean? Says the Baalei Tosfot. Doesn't mean that Yaakov sent Yosef to go look for his brothers. It means Yaakov was walking with Yosef. He was doing the mitzvah levaya. You don't send someone out by themselves. And Yosef HaTzadik said to his father, go back home. You're an old man. I'll go find them. And Yaakov said, but I'm not walking for you because I'm walking with you. I'm teaching you the mitzvah of levaya, of walking with someone. Because if someone's found, you have to bring an egla arufah. That's when he was teaching it. When he sent him. Not before he sent him. When he sent him. Yosef HaTzadik now gets sold. Right? Yosef HaTzadik comes to Mitzrayim all by himself. No other Jews. 17 years old. His brothers just sold him. How does he behave down there? Is he all upset? No. On the other hand, he's helping people. He's helping his master. He's in prison. He's looking at the two guys. Why is your faces so long? Why are you down? Tries to cheer them up. Why is Yosef HaTzadik continuously trying to help people? He's in Mitzrayim. He's collecting food. He says, I got to prepare food. He's always looking to help somebody. Why? Yosef HaTzadik says, what's the mitzvah of levaya? Why you have to walk with somebody? You know why? You don't want him to feel alone. That's what we say when if a person was found dead in the middle of nowhere. We have to find which city it was, and they have to come and say, our hands didn't do it. Because when you walk with someone, you show someone we respect you, we're thinking of you, we're there for you. It gives him koach to know that you're part of a society, you're part of a group, you're part of a club. It gives you energy. Yosef HaTzadik said, my father always taught me, the last mitzvah he taught me, was to think about another person. And so the whole time, he lived this way. Now, Yaakov Avinu gets the wagons. Why are they sending wagons? Very good, says Rabbi Gabriel. They need to come down to Mitzrayim. They need help. How are they going to travel everything? Yosef HaTzadik sends help. He sends some system to help them get down. Yaakov Avinu looks and says, Yosef is still helping people. Yosef is not just a king and everything is mine. Right? Once I saw this movie many years ago. It's called, it's an animated kids film called Emperor's New Groove. And it starts off with this emperor. It's all about him. Him. He doesn't care about anybody. Right? Eventually, he learns he has to care about other people. But that's what Yosef could have done. I'm the king of the world. Back in the olden days, the king could chop off anyone's head, take anyone's stuff. But Yosef is not that. He's worried about everyone. He's collecting food for everyone. He's giving everyone food. He's sending wagons to his father. Yaakov Avinu looks at the wagon and says, Yosef is thinking about others. Yosef is worried about others. Yosef is helping others. That's my Yosef. He remembers the Egla Arufah. He remembers Hilchot of helping someone else. That's why he was able to see from Agalot, from wagons, he was able to see the Egla Arufah. And two quick ideas. The Chafetz Chaim says there was the author of the Amudei Sheish, Harav Avram Shmuel. He once came to a Brit Milah. He comes to the Brit Milah. He goes to see the baby. He sees the mother. He comes out after a few minutes and he makes an announcement. We're about to perform a Brit Milah on a mamzer. Everyone's shocked. The mother says, yes, the child's a mamzer. So everybody asks, Harav Avram Shmuel, the Amudei Sheish, how did you know? But you have Ruach HaKodesh? He says, I have no Ruach HaKodesh. I was learning the Hilchot of Mamzerim. And it's very rare, I don't learn it a lot. And all of a sudden, that minute that I started learning it, they came and told me about this Brit Milah. I said, how can it be? Why is it when a minute I just started learning it, they're coming and telling me about Brit Milah? And so I came in and I had my suspicions. So I started asking questions. And the mother broke down and told me that this child is a mamzer. How? Gedulim are able to see a bigger picture. They're able to realize the cause and effect. And we'll end off with this amazing story. An analogy of how we're supposed to view our lives. There was once a young man who was in a desert. No food, no drink. The sun was beating down upon his body, and for days he's going without water. Finally, he sees someone. He runs over to this man and he says, please, give me water. And this man says, I'm sorry, I don't have waters. All that I sell is neckties. I can sell you a necktie for $5. The guy says, necktie? I don't even know necktie. Get out of here. Starts throwing things at him. Rocks and sand. He's running and looking for water. Finally, after so much time, he sees a big restaurant. He runs into the restaurant. He says, please give me water. And the hostess there who seats people says, excuse me, but in this restaurant, you could only walk in if you're wearing a necktie. No necktie, no service. The moral is simple. Incidents occur during our lifetime. We sometimes see it as no meaning. We don't see the cause and effect. We don't understand the cause and effects. But these are the neckties that we're supposed to use in our journey, in our service, in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We're supposed to see that everything is leading to something else. That is the job of a Jew. That is the job that our Gedolim can do so clearly by looking at the whole picture. It's a job that we have to do as well. Hashem should give us this chut so we should be able to see the big picture. I should be able to see the big thing. So to quickly review the 3 lessons that we learned. Lesson number 1 was the lesson of going far and beyond, not to embarrass someone. Lesson number 2 was don't be hypocritical, because that's going to be the tochacha right there. And lesson number 3, you got to look with proper eyes, with the big picture, and understand that everything comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we do that, we'll be Zaycha to the Gula Shalem here, B'Yameinu. Amen. Shabbat Shalom.